Hello everyone, and welcome to Fire Emblem Month with our first set of character profiles. Now, I'm not going to be going into too much depth, not because I don't have a lot to say, but because there's a lot of characters to cover. There's literally probably 100 across the various Fire Emblem games I'm going to be reviewing, so I'm going to kind of cover them in batches. Hopefully the batches they're covered in will be rational and make some sense. Otherwise, we could be in trouble. Anyway, so we're going to start today with the Nohrian royal family. Featured in both Fire Emblem Fates Conquest and Revelations, in both paths you get all members of the royal family. The Nohrian royal family consists of 2 daughters and 2 sons. Sorry, much like the Hoshido royal family. Each of them has 2 retainers, and it also includes Azura and Yu, although Azura and Yu I will probably do in a separate video just because they're kind of weird. So the 4 children of the king are the 4 children of Garen, who is the king of Nohr, who I might have to do a separate video on, just maybe the villains of Fire Emblem Fates. So the 4 children are Xander, the oldest, Camilla, the second oldest, Leo, the third, second youngest, and Elise, the youngest. Your character, I think, is between Camilla and Leo in age. I'm not exactly sure, though, but let's just go through the different characters, shall we? So we'll go from oldest to youngest. So the oldest is Xander. Now Xander is, I guess, kind of the most boring of the Nohrian characters. He's kind of a generic monarch character, very similar to a lot of other generic monarch characters from throughout Fire Emblem. He's kind of like Ellawood, but a lot kind of rougher. He's just kind of the archetypical king, I suppose you could say. In kind of contrast to Ryojima, who's much more of kind of an idealist and a moralist, Xander's much more of a pragmatist. Not really because he lacks morals, but because he views his primary duty as being a king and a ruler to his people, not to kind of pursue his own moral compass. He doesn't generally disagree with the actions of the Avatar, but he's burdened because he has to inherit the legacy of Garen, who's a sociopathic mass murderer, and he does have to maintain the best interests of his country. When I get to the reactionary review of this game, we'll talk about it more, but Nohr has severe problems, namely a lack of access to a stable food supply, and is almost by its nature and its size expansionist. It has to be, or else it'll starve. So Xander, I think, realizes this, and he's kind of torn internally by it. If you play through the conquest route, something that'll happen is you'll have to kill Xander at... no, not the conquest route. If you play through the birthright route, you will have to kill Xander, which you can tell he's very tortured by, because he realizes that his father is completely evil, completely corrupt, and is a horrible person. At the same time, he is his father, and he views his duty as being paramount, even at the expense of his personal decency, which is to a certain extent, as I've discussed before, what the ideal monarch kind of is. It's someone who's willing to cast themselves onto the bonfire, kind of like Gwyn in Dark Souls, in order to really become a to serve their kingdom properly. So that's kind of Xander. He's not super interesting. He's kind of the most boring royal. Next we have Camilla, who probably the most people are readily familiar with due to her fertile appearance. Camilla is the second oldest. She has an interesting personality. When I first saw her, I thought her character would be some kind of psychopathic mass murderer. Just given kind of her appearance, how sexualized she was, and just kind of the way she dresses. While Camilla is very, or Camilla, or however you pronounce her name, can be very brutal with her enemies, I really define her personality as being a sweetheart. She really, really loves your character. If your character's male, and when it comes out that you're not biologically related to you, she immediately tries to marry you. Actually, in my view, the first time I played the game with Conquest, I was a male avatar, and I married Camilla, and it really just kind of works out perfectly. She kind of unconditionally loves you, and it's an extremely happy, fruitful marriage. She just basically, she's just kind of extremely feminine. She just kind of gives without thinking to her family. She would die without a second thought for her family. She would kill anyone who thought she would hurt her family. C.S. Lewis talked about the difference between male and female as is the females are made to protect, are made to mediate within the family. They're supposed to be just completely and obsessively protective of their kin and kind of within the family, and that's kind of where they're supposed to have more authority, whereas males are more designed to deal with the pragmatic issues of the outside world. And you can really kind of see this in Camellia. It's interesting because in all of her endings, regardless of what happens, she resigns her title as princess and goes to be with whoever she marries. She's very disinterested in ruling. Really, what she probably wants more than anything is to just be a housewife. That's her dream, is to marry a husband, share his bed. I get the impression she is quite a kind of a sensual person, just in a very monogamous way, which is part of what makes her such a waifu, that even though she kind of dresses like a skank, she's really not a skank at all. So she just kind of wants to get married, have a whole bunch of children, and just kind of spoil them. And that's something I think most people can get behind, and that's the reason why most people like her. Regardless of how it goes, she resigns her title and just lives with whoever it is, which is kind of funny because they didn't bother to change it. But you could have her marry Ryojima, for instance, who becomes the king of Hoshido. And you're like, well, why would she have to resign her title to marry him? She's a princess marrying another lord, etc. Why is this even an issue? But I think she just really doesn't want it. She was kind of only a princess just so she could look after her family from the front lines. Her character is also very serene, very calm when her family's not threatened. She's basically kind of made to be a super waifu, and she succeeds at that. Overall, her character is extremely likable. While it kind of almost seems like there is a dark side to her, and that she's kind of a psycho. Overall, Camilla is just kind of a sweetheart. She's a very endearing and loving character, and it's very hard to not smile whenever you see her on screen. Third, we have, let's see here, Leo. Excuse this lack of professionalism. Here we go, Leo. Damn it! Okay, 1 second. Leo, who's the third oldest child. Now, Leo is another character I really like, probably because of all of the people he really kind of is the most similar to myself. The second time I played the game, I played as a female avatar, and I romanced Leo. And they're saying, well, that's degeneracy, Argent. Well, maybe it kind of is, but I mean, my character was an attractive female, so I don't really see how it's gay. But anyways, Leo is very uptight, very antisocial. He's probably a good candidate for autism. He is the magic wielder in the family. He wields a sacred magic book. I forget what it's called. Brunhild or something like that. His personality is exceedingly cold. You have to understand Nohr is a very dark. Well, dark is kind of a pun because it's the kingdom of night. It doesn't have very much sun, but it's a very meritocratic, a very kind of brutal place where people can rise and fall very quickly in the ranks based on their talent. Leo was never as good in combat as his siblings. Xander is a paladin. Camilla is a Dark Knight or Wyvern Lord. Um, and there's most of the other people around them are very much kind of fighters. Leo's not bad with a sword, and he does wear armor, but his true talent is his brain. He works obsessively hard to be a mage, and he's an extremely good mage, probably the best mage in the game. He's an extremely hard worker, he's extremely intelligent, but he spent so much time around books he doesn't really know how to deal with people anymore. So he comes across as short, uncaring, very kind of caustic to external people, and isn't really very aware of how to deal with his emotions. Actually, the romance plot is kind of very interesting with him because he basically, it's very cute actually. He kind of teaches the Avatar how to study like he does. He teaches you how to use more advanced strategies, all that kind of thing. And at the end, he basically says, I've been in love with you since I was 6 years old. The truth is, I'm just too autistic to express my feelings. And that's kind of how all of his confessions come across. So I don't have a great deal to say about Leo. His character is not that deep compared to maybe Camilla or Roijima or kind of some of the other people. He's fun, though. He's a lot of fun as a character. He's always there with kind of a sarcastic remark, and he's always there to kind of project a voice of reality. I get the impression that his reserved personality really makes him suffer because he has to spend so much time around his sisters. Finally, we have Elise, who people will call me a pedo. I actually did her just out of curiosity. I shouldn't have said it that way. I actually did a romance with her one playthrough, just because my avatar was a mage, and I was just curious to see how it went. The problem with Elise is they probably should have just made her character a couple years older, and it wouldn't have been so creepy. It's creepy, though, that she can marry various people. Obviously, I don't know. People are going to say, oh, RG with your 2D waifus, but I mean, like, I find Camilla attractive in a feminine way. Elise is very cute, but she's just too young. I know pedo bears would say too old, but I say too young. So Elise is an interesting case of kind of a childlike, sweet character who's not obnoxious. Because normally speaking, you have this archetype, and it's kind of this childlike character who's always like, yay, let's go play, let's go have fun, and they just kind of bitch constantly, and they whine, and they just, like, whenever someone tries to discuss something serious, they just interrupt it, and they're just kind of a little brat. Elise really isn't like that at all. Elise is actually an extremely caring person. Her class is a troubadour, which fits with her personality. Troubadours are clerics who are mounted. They can't attack, but they can heal. It's revealed that Elise frequently sneaks out of the palace and uses her healing powers to help members of the lower class. She also distributes alms to people in secret and steals food from the palace kitchens to give to the poor. On the battlefield, she obsessively seeks to heal everybody, friend or foe alike. Foes, obviously, after they've been captured, but she hates to take life, etc. She's just kind of, very much like Camilla, she's a very kind of traditionally feminine character who's all about kind of the giving and nurturing spirit. One can expect that she'd make a great mother someday, and I think it is implied that she will make a great mother someday. I really like Elise. She's really cute. I wouldn't say she's... I don't have any lolly inclinations myself, and thank God I never have. I would say she is moe, though. For those of you who aren't aware, moe is different from lolly. Lolly is when you're sexually attracted to cute underage girls. Moe is when there's kind of a cute, kind of innocent younger girl who you feel a paternal instinct towards. That is, you want to, like, hug them in a non-sexual way, you want to protect them, you want to nurture them, etc. It's a paternalistic kind of feeling towards a woman. It's not a sexual desire for them. It's a desire to kind of be that paternal figure. It's kind of just how fathers feel in general towards their daughters. So she's very much a Moe character. I know a lot of sick fucks will think she's like a lolly character, but no, I really like Elise. I like all the Nohr siblings, except for really Xander, because he's just so fucking boring. Um, but yeah, that was the Nohrian siblings. I hope you enjoyed this video. Next up, I guess we'll do the Hoshido siblings.